The emperor did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Who will take my daughter's hand? The words carried across the throne chamber with mechanical precision, amplified by the acoustic lattice woven into the vaulted structure above us. The question echoed once, then settled like gravity. No one moved. I was standing near the back, which is the safest place to stand when history decides to happen. The diplomats from the outer spiral shifted subtly. Two admirals adjusted the cuffs of their ceremonial uniforms, as if fabric alignment required urgent attention. A noble from House Viral pretended to examine the star map projected beneath his boots. The emperor's gaze traveled slowly across the assembly. Her hand, he continued, is not a symbol, it is succession, it is alliance, it is burden. That word lingered. The princess stood beside him. She looked almost entirely human. Same posture, same measured stillness. But her long ears curved elegantly upward through her dark hair, the faint bioluminal filaments along their edges shimmering softly in response to the emotional frequencies rippling through the chamber. They were not decorative, they were expressive. Right now they glowed faintly blue, anxiety or anticipation, possibly both. A fleet commander near the front cleared his throat, then did nothing with the sound. A merchant lord activated a discrete neural overlay, likely calculating trade expansions if he were foolish enough to step forward. No one did. The silence lengthened until it became a presence of its own. I leaned slightly toward the diplomat beside me. "Is this normal?" I whispered. He did not look at me. "It is strategic." Strategic silence. "Yes, that seems inefficient." The emperor folded his hands behind his back. "To take her hand," he said calmly, "is to bind your life to hers. You will share command access to the Imperial Defense Network. You will undergo genetic compatibility integration. You will inherit rivalries that predate your species, first orbital launch." There was a subtle flicker of light along the princess's ears at that last phrase. I blinked. Genetic compatibility integration. That sounded intense. A noblewoman from the inner systems took a half-step forward, then stopped. Her advisor murmured something urgently into her neural implant. She stepped back. The emperor's voice did not waver. "Power without courage is instability," he said. "Privilege without responsibility is decay." I shifted my weight. This was not a romantic invitation. It was a public audit of ambition, another long stretch of silence. I became aware of my own breathing, of the faint hum of the chamber's atmospheric regulators, of the enormous projected starfield rotating above the throne, representing territories that would one day answer to whoever stood beside that princess. She did not look at the nobles. She looked at the crowd, at everyone. Her gaze passed over me without pause, then returned. It was subtle, a fraction of a second longer than politeness required. Her ears flickered faintly. Relief? No, that made no sense. I had done nothing. The emperor's eyes narrowed slightly. "Is there no one," he asked evenly, "who believes themselves equal to the weight of her future?" The fleet commander stared very intently at the floor projection. The merchant lord coughed again, more convincingly this time. I don't know why I spoke. There was no strategic calculation, no grand realization, just a discomfort with the silence. "I will." The words left my mouth before I could organize them into something safer. The chamber shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but perceptibly. Heads turned, neural implants flickered. Several nobles looked at me as if I had just volunteered to pilot a vessel into a star. The diplomat beside me inhaled sharply. "You are not cleared for this," he whispered. "I gathered that," I replied. The emperor regarded me from across the distance. "You," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," I answered, because apparently I had committed to this trajectory. "You are human. That has been consistent throughout my life." A ripple moved through the chamber, not laughter, but close. The emperor's gaze sharpened. "You understand what you offer." "Not entirely," I admitted, a murmur sharper this time. Honesty is apparently not a standard courtship tactic. The emperor descended one step from the throne platform. "Then explain," he said. I swallowed. "I understand that no one else has stepped forward," I said carefully, "and that your daughter is being evaluated as an asset instead of a person." A collective intake of breath. I considered retreating. Too late. "I also understand," I continued, "that if taking her hand means sharing responsibility for the Empire's stability, then the only unacceptable answer is silence." The fleet commander looked as if he might protest. He did not. The princess's ears brightened slightly. The faint blue shifted toward a softer hue. The emperor studied me for a long moment. You possess no fleet, he said. Correct. No noble lineage. Also correct. No claim to our succession lattice. I don't even fully understand what that is. Another ripple unmistakably amused this time. The Emperor's expression did not change. Why, he asked, would you speak? I hesitated, because it felt wrong not to, because watching an entire empire freeze was unbearable, because her ears had flickered with something that looked too much like resignation. I don't know if I'm the strongest candidate, I said, or the wealthiest or the safest. That last word echoed faintly, but I am willing. The chamber fell still again. This silence felt different. The Emperor turned his gaze to his daughter. For the first time she spoke. Father, she said evenly, you asked who would take my hand. Her eyes met mine without flinching. One has answered. Her ears glowed brighter now, not anxiety, something steadier. The Emperor looked back at me. You realize, he said slowly, that willingness is the beginning, not the qualification. I assumed there would be steps. There will be trials. I suspected that. And scrutiny. I'm experiencing some already. A few nobles did not bother hiding their irritation. The Emperor straightened. Then you will remain, he declared. You will undergo evaluation. If you falter, the offer dissolves. That seems fair, I said. The diplomat beside me leaned closer. You have just volunteered for the most dangerous courtship in 3 galaxies. I've had worse first impressions, I murmured. Across the chamber, the princess's ears flickered again, this time unmistakably warm. The Emperor raised his hand, signaling the close of session. The nobles began recalculating futures. I stood very still, wondering at what exact moment my day had gone catastrophically sideways. The princess descended 1 step from the platform. Human, she said quietly. Yes. Do not mistake relief for fragility. I wouldn't, I replied. Her gaze held mine for a fraction longer. Good, she said. And somewhere beneath the political calculations and shifting alliances, I realized something unsettling. I had not spoken because I wanted power. I had spoken because she had looked tired of being weighed. And now the entire empire was watching to see if I could carry even a fraction of what she already did. They did not give me a sword. They gave me a schedule. Evaluation begins at first cycle, said the Imperial Adjutant, projecting a series of rotating symbols into the air. Genetic compatibility screening, neural resilience testing, strategic simulation, public address assessment. Public address, I asked. You must demonstrate composure under scrutiny. I just did that. That was preliminary scrutiny. Of course it was. The adjutant tilted her head slightly. Her long ears, lined with faint silver filaments, flickered in measured pulses as she reviewed the data hovering between us. You understand that withdrawal remains an option, she said. Yes. You may step aside without dishonor. That's generous. It is pragmatic. I exhaled slowly, and if I don't withdraw, then you will be evaluated until a determination is reached. That sounds less like courtship and more like a product warranty test. Her expression did not change. We walked through corridors that responded to her biometric signature, doors parting seamlessly. The palace was not decorative, it was integrated. Walls carried embedded circuitry. Floors subtly adjusted temperature and traction based on predicted movement patterns. I tried not to look impressed. I assume the princess went through this as well, I said. She was born into it. That's not the same. No, the adjutant agreed. We entered a chamber where a circular platform waited at the center, surrounded by suspended interface rings. Genetic compatibility screening, she said. That sounds personal. It is structural. I stepped onto the platform, the rings activated, projecting a lattice around me. Relax, she instructed. That has never worked when someone tells me to do it. A soft pulse traveled through the lattice. Symbols cascaded down in vertical lines. Baseline human genome confirmed, the system announced. Excellent, I muttered, still human. A second pulse followed, sharper. Cross-species resonance markers detected. That sounds like the part that gets interesting. The adjutant glanced at the data. Your biological profile is unusually stable under multi-frequency exposure. I have endured diplomatic banquets, I replied. That builds resilience. A faint flicker ran along her ears. Amusement, perhaps. The lattice shifted color. Princess alignment protocol engaged, the system said. Engaged, I repeated. Is she here? No, the adjutant replied. This is a remote synchronization test. The air vibrated faintly. A A secondary pattern appeared within the lattice, distinct from mine, layered with complex harmonic structures, her genetic echo. The resonance intensified. I felt a pressure behind my eyes, not painful but insistent, as if two melodies were attempting to align without rehearsing first. "Report," the adjutant said. "Subject heart rate elevated," the system responded. "Cognitive coherence stable." "I can hear it," I said quietly. "Hear what?" "Not sound, structure." The resonance steadied. "Compatibility within acceptable variance," the system concluded. I blinked. "That's it. For this phase." That was almost anticlimactic. "Do not be optimistic," she replied. The lattice dissolved. We moved to the next chamber without ceremony. The simulation froze. "Outcome indeterminate," it announced. "That's honest," I said. When the chair released me, my muscles felt as if I had actually lived those conflicts. "Your decisions favor sustainability over victory," the adjutant observed. "I assume that's either admirable or disappointing." "It is uncommon." We walked again. "Public address assessment," she said. "Ah, the terrifying one. You will speak before a simulated audience representing multiple species." "That seems excessive." "It is necessary." A holographic crowd materialized around a central platform. Thousands of projected faces, alien physiologies, human delegates, neutral observers. "State your intent," the system instructed. I took a breath. "I did not step forward because I believed myself superior," I said. "I stepped forward because no one else did." The projections remained still. "I do not offer perfection," I continued. "I offer presence. If I stand beside your princess, it will not be to claim power, it will be to share consequence." Murmurs rippled through the simulated audience. "I will make mistakes," I added. "That is statistically inevitable." A faint increase in positive response metrics appeared. "But I will not disappear when decisions become difficult." The simulation ended. The adjutant deactivated the chamber. "You are aware," she said, "that sincerity is not always strategic." "I know, and yet you persist in it. It's a habit." We paused before the final corridor leading back toward the central court. "You have passed initial evaluations," she said. "Initial," I repeated. "Yes, and the princess?" "She has observed." That tightened something in my chest more than the simulations had. "Did I embarrass myself?" I asked. The adjutant considered. "No," she said. "That's encouraging." She did not look disappointed. I released a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. As we resumed walking, I became aware that this was no longer about proving I deserved a throne. It was about proving I would not retreat when the weight of it pressed down. And for the first time since I spoke in that silent chamber, I began to understand something unsettling. Courage is easier in a single moment. Sustaining it is the real trial. The silence after my name echoed longer than it had any right to. "I repeat," the herald said, his voice amplified by a hovering lattice of translation drones. "The human delegate Aaron Vale has formally requested audience with Her Highness." "Requested," one of the nobles muttered. He announced himself like a malfunctioning cargo alarm. "I heard that," I said, raising a hand. In my defense, I was nervous. My species deals with fear by speaking at inappropriate moments. A few of the younger officers failed to suppress smiles. The older nobles looked as if they had swallowed radiation. The queen's voice cut through the chamber. "Let him approach." That was the part where my legs were supposed to move confidently. Instead, they negotiated. One step forward, pause, consider life choices, another step. As I walked, the princess finally looked directly at me. Up close, she looked almost human, almost. Her features were elegant and familiar, but her ears were long and tapered, rising gracefully from her dark hair like delicate living crowns. They shifted slightly as she focused on me, reacting to sound in ways human ears never could. I tried not to stare. "You understand what stepping forward means," the queen said. "This is not a ceremonial dance. My daughter's hand binds fleets, treaties, and enemies." "I understand," I said. "I've read the documents twice. Your legal language is terrifying." A ripple moved through the court. It might have been outrage. It might have been laughter struggling for survival. The princess spoke for the first time. "You are aware that several warlords have withdrawn their proposals because accepting this union places a target on one's back." "Yes," I said. "I also noticed none of them enjoyed being shot at." "That is generally considered a disadvantage," she replied dryly. I couldn't help it. I smiled. "I've been shot at before." Several nobles straightened sharply. "You have?" The queen asked. "Metaphorically and once literally. It was a misunderstanding involving trade tariffs and a plasma harvester. The princess's ears tilted slightly. If those movements meant what I thought they meant, she was amused. Why? She asked. Why would a human, without a fleet to command, without noble lineage, step into this? Because everyone else is calculating survival percentages, I said, and you're standing here like an equation no one wants to solve. Murmurs flared. You speak boldly for someone with no leverage, a commander snapped. Incorrect, I replied. I have one piece of leverage, and that is, I'm not afraid of losing what I don't have. Silence again, heavy this time. The queen studied me. Courage is admirable, recklessness is not. I'm not reckless, I said. I ran simulations before I spoke. You simulated marrying into an empire, the commander demanded. Of course. My implant ran 12,000 outcome models while I was standing back there pretending to look confused. The princess blinked, and 70% end in political instability, I admitted. 20% end in open conflict. 8% end in assassination attempts. And the remaining 2, she asked. I met her gaze. Stability, reform, shared command structures, reduced border skirmishes, cultural exchange. That is optimistic, the queen said. It's efficient, I replied. Empires collapse when no one wants the responsibility. I'm volunteering for the unpleasant parts. One noble scoffed. You would command fleets you do not understand. I don't need to understand them alone, I said. That's what advisors are for, and terrifying long-eared princesses with strategic educations. Her ears flicked again. I am not terrifying, she said. Your Highness, I said gently, this entire court is afraid of you. A long pause, she looked around. The nobles immediately pretended to study the ceiling, her lips curved slightly. That was not my intention. It rarely is, I said. The queen leaned back. If I accepted your proposal, human, you would stand beside my daughter against houses that have ruled for centuries. I already am, I replied. I just moved closer. One of the elder lords stepped forward. You cannot allow this. A human alliance weakens tradition. The princess turned toward him. Tradition has left me standing alone in my own court. That shut him up. She looked back at me. If you take my hand, you inherit my enemies. I assumed that, I said. Do they come with uniforms? It helps with identification. A suppressed laugh escaped from one of the guards. The queen's gaze softened just slightly. You attempt humor in a grave moment. Yes, I said, because if we cannot laugh in the face of catastrophe, then catastrophe wins twice. The princess studied me in silence. I felt my implant humming, tracking heart rates around the room, elevated, agitated, curious. You are not the strongest, she said. No, not the wealthiest. Definitely not. Not the safest choice. Almost certainly not. Then what are you? I exhaled slowly. Willing. Her ears stilled completely. For a long moment nothing moved. Then she stepped down from the dais. Gasps erupted across the chamber. She stopped in front of me. Close enough that I could see faint lines of bioluminescent circuitry beneath her skin. Subdermal command interfaces, no doubt. Aaron Vale, she said quietly, so only I could hear. If you falter, the empire fractures. No pressure, I murmured, her lips twitched. And if you betray me, she continued softly, I will personally ensure you regret surviving. That seems fair. She extended her hand. It was steady. Mine was not. The entire court held its breath as I reached out. Our fingers touched. My implant surged, connecting to her neural lattice in a flash of encrypted light. Across the chamber, ancient sigils ignited as the bond protocols recognized mutual consent. The queen rose. So be it, she declared. Let it be recorded. The human has spoken and my daughter has answered. Behind us, outrage, calculation, and disbelief churned like a storm. Beside me, the princess's voice was barely audible. You realize, she whispered, this was the easy part. I glanced at the nobles already whispering into concealed communicators. Of course, I said. I specialize in difficult parts. Her ears angled toward me again. Good, she replied, and somewhere in the upper galleries I noticed 3 rival houses leaving at once, which meant the simulations were already adjusting, and the real negotiations had just begun. 3 houses have mobilized their private fleets, my implant informed me cheerfully. Probability of hostile posturing, 92%. Probability of actual attack, 51%. Margin of error, annoyingly large. Can you say that in a way that makes me feel better? I muttered. Certainly, we are only slightly more than half likely to be vaporized. The princess heard that. You named your implant. Of course, I said. If something lives in my head and critiques my decisions, it earns a name. She folded her hands behind her back. And what is it called? Optimism. She looked at me for a long moment. You are aware that it does not sound optimistic. It's aspirational. She almost smiled, almost. The War Council chamber hummed as holographic star maps unfolded above the circular table. 3 clusters pulsed red along the outer sectors: House Velker, House Senraith, House Torin. Velker controls the shipyards, she said. Senraith commands the border patrols. Torin owns half the trade routes. And all of them own impressive egos, I added. They believe this union destabilizes their influence. It does, I said. That's the point. Her long ears angled slightly toward the projection as data scrolled through her neural interface. They are not declaring open rebellion. They are requesting clarification of authority. That's political language for "we are testing you." Yes, I leaned back. Good, good, she repeated. If they wanted war immediately, they'd have fired already. This is a conversation with armed fleets. I never said it was a friendly conversation. She studied me again, measuring. On your world, do humans always treat potential civil war as negotiation practice? Only on productive days. A faint sound escaped her, something between a sigh and a laugh. Aaron, she said quietly, this is not a simulation. I know, I replied. That's why we don't escalate. She turned fully toward me. Explain. We invite them, I said, to the capital. To dinner. Her ears froze. Dinner, she repeated. Yes, neutral ground, public, transparent. Harder to assassinate someone when the entire empire is watching you chew. You believe they will accept a meal invitation. I believe their pride will force them to, I said. Refuse, and they appear afraid of a human and a princess. Accept, and they think they can intimidate us in person. And you intend to intimidate them? No, I said. I intend to confuse them. Her gaze sharpened. How? By agreeing with them. Silence stretched between us. That is either brilliant, she said slowly, or catastrophically foolish. Those are often the same thing at the beginning. She turned back to the star map. Velker wants greater shipyard autonomy. Senraith demands expanded military jurisdiction. Torin insists on trade protections. Then we give them what they want. She looked at me sharply. You cannot be serious. Not fully, I admitted. We give them partial authority, but we tie it together. Her eyes narrowed. Shared oversight. Yes. Velker expands shipyards, but Senraith audits fleet deployment. Senraith gains patrol range, but Torin regulates supply chains. Torin secures trade lanes, but Velker controls maintenance. She considered it. Her implant lights flickered faintly beneath her skin. They would depend on one another, she said slowly. And on us, I added, because we're the only neutral center left. Her ears tilted toward me again. You are weaving obligation. I prefer the term encouraging cooperation through mutual inconvenience. She laughed then, not loudly, but genuinely. The sound startled both of us. You are insufferable, she said. I've been told that builds character. A chime echoed through the chamber. Incoming transmission. 3 figures materialized in shimmering holographic form, each surrounded by the sigils of their house. Lord Velker spoke first. Your Highness. We seek clarification regarding recent decisions. I smiled pleasantly. We were just about to invite you to dinner. All 3 blinked. Dinner, Velker repeated cautiously. Yes, I said. You can bring your fleets if it makes you feel emotionally secure. Lord Senraith's eyes narrowed. Is this mockery? No, the princess said smoothly. It is hospitality. Torin leaned forward slightly. And what would this hospitality entail? Transparency, she replied. Shared governance, collective security. Velker scoffed. You propose to dilute our authority. I propose, I said, to ensure none of you can overthrow each other without paperwork. A long pause. Senraith stared at me. You joke in matters of power. I joke because power hates being laughed at, I said calmly. It makes it nervous. Torin exchanged a glance with the others. And if we refuse? The princess's voice cooled. Then you declare yourselves separate from imperial unity, which meant traitors. Velker exhaled slowly. You maneuver cleverly for someone newly bound to this court, human. Thank you, I said. I lose sleep over that. Another silence. Finally Torin spoke. We will attend. The holograms dissolved. The chamber lights dimmed back to normal. You are playing a dangerous game, she said quietly. Yes, I agreed. And if they coordinate against us instead? Then we learn that now, I replied. Better at a table than on a battlefield. She walked closer, studying my face. You do not seem afraid. I am, I said honestly. Optimism is currently screaming. Probability of political implosion, rising, my implant chimed helpfully. She raised an eyebrow. It speaks out loud, only when it wants attention. She shook her head slightly. You are unlike anyone in this court. Good, I said. Sameness built this problem. Her gaze softened. When my mother asked who would take my hand, I expected silence. You got me instead. Yes, she said. I am still deciding if that is fortunate. That's fair. She extended her hand again, not ceremonial this time, just personal. I took it. Our enemies will test us, she said. Let them, I replied. We'll test back. Her ears angled forward with resolve. For the Empire, she said. For the Empire, I echoed. My implant pulsed quietly. Probability of long-term stabilization, it whispered in my thoughts, has increased by 3%. I smiled. Not because 3% was impressive, but because it was movement. And empires, like people, survived by moving forward, even if they argued the entire way there. House Velker has locked targeting solutions on the outer defense grid. Of course they have, I muttered. Dinner was going too well. Across the negotiation hall, Velker rose slowly. You propose interdependence, he said. We propose certainty. Certainty is overrated, I replied. It usually means someone else loses. Senwraith folded his hands. Your reforms bind us to one another. If one house fails, all suffer. Yes, the princess said calmly. That is called responsibility. Torin's gaze flicked between us. Or vulnerability. Same word, I said. Different tone. A tremor passed through the floor as fleet engines powered up in orbit. My implant pulsed sharply. Multiple weapons charging. Probability of escalation, 74%. I exhaled slowly. This was the moment the simulations never quite captured, the way the air felt before a decision reshaped history. I stepped forward instead of back. Velker, I said, if you fire on the grid, you cripple the capital. I am aware. You also cripple your own shipyards. The defense grid routes maintenance through your docks. His expression flickered. Senwraith turned slightly toward him. I kept going. Senwraith, if Velker destabilizes orbit, your patrol corridors collapse. Piracy rises. Torin loses trade. Torin loses trade, Velker loses contracts. Velker loses contracts, your fleets lose parts. Torin's eyes narrowed. You wired the systems already. No, I said. You did, over centuries, I just mapped it. The princess stepped beside me. You fear losing power, she said evenly. But your power has always depended on each other. We are not weakening you, we are revealing you. Silence, Velker's jaw tightened. And what prevents you from using this structure to dominate us? I answered before she could. Nothing. All three stiffened. I held their gaze. Nothing prevents us, that's the point. The princess glanced at me sharply. You're admitting vulnerability, she asked quietly. Yes, I said. I turned back to the houses. You don't trust us, good, don't. Monitor us, audit us, challenge us, but do it inside a system that keeps the Empire intact. Senwraith studied me. You risk your own authority. I risk everything, I said. So do you. That doesn't change. My implant flickered. Weapons charging has paused. Velker's hands tightened on the table. Why would a human care if this empire fractures? Because a few months ago I wouldn't have, because I could have taken a safer path. Because standing alone was easier than standing responsible. I looked at the princess. Her long ears were angled forward, not in fear, but in focus. I care, I said slowly, because I chose this, not for power, not for prestige. I chose it because silence was worse. The room held still. I don't want to rule you, I continued. I want to work with you, laugh at you occasionally, argue with you constantly. But build something that doesn't collapse the moment one person hesitates. Torin leaned back. You are either the most naive strategist in history or the most dangerous. I'm human, I said. We specialize in being both. A faint snort escaped Senwraith before he could stop it. Velker looked at the star map hovering above the table. Red indicators blinked over their fleets. Slowly, one by one, those lights shifted to neutral. Stand down, he ordered quietly. High-orbit engines powered down, my implant chimed. Probability of immediate civil war reduced to 12%. I allowed myself one breath. The princess stepped forward. House Velker, she said, you will retain shipyard autonomy under shared audit. He nodded stiffly. House Senwraith expanded patrol jurisdiction under cooperative logistics. A pause, then a nod. House Torin trade protections balanced by maintenance oversight. Torin inclined his head. This is not surrender, Velker said. No, I replied, it's adulthood. He stared at me, then unexpectedly he laughed. A low, reluctant sound. You are intolerable, he said. I've heard. Senwraith rose. If you fail, human, we will replace you. Fair, I said. Just schedule it in advance. Even Torin smiled at that. The meeting dissolved not into cheers, but into motion. Data transfers, provisional signatures, fleet recalibrations. Not a victory parade. A foundation. Later, when the chamber had emptied, the princess remained beside me. You gambled everything, she said. Yes, you admitted weakness. Yes, that is not what emperors do. I'm not trying to be an emperor, I said quietly. She studied me. Then what are you trying to be? I thought about the man who had stood at the back of a silent court, speaking because no one